Hey all, Heretic here, and today let us talk tribes in Battlegrounds. There's 10 different tribes, we have neutrals, there's a lot of different ways you can play the game, and I want to rank how they're actually performing overall, as opposed to, in a lobby where, okay, it's this versus this versus this. It's like, let's just look at the feeling and the numbers of how they're operating and rank them accordingly. For maybe those who don't play that much, who are looking for an idea of what are the tribes I should be using as opposed to just, whatever I'm grabbing. Like, what should I be leaning towards if something's stronger than the other? Now, these are all my opinion based on my experience in these lobbies, but let's break it all down and take a look at it. Right off the bat, now I know it's a tribe list and we need to do tribe things, but we have to mention neutral minions because neutral minions are in every single game and they are an important part of how we can win. Be it doubling something we do, giving us extra stats, giving us shields. Neutral minions are kind of the foundation of the game, and if I don't list them, I feel like I'm doing them a disservice, as oftentimes these can win you the game or make what your tribe does do it better. So I have to give them a solid B, and the reason for that being is by themselves, there are a couple win conditions in neutrals, but they're not stellar, and they're not till later if you're looking at like a Bran or a Walking Fort. These higher tier ones are obviously more likely to, do things and be more impactful than opposed to the lower ones. So let's just start by putting them up at B, because that's where they belong, not just because I used the picture I realized of Bran. Next up, let's go with Quilboar. Quilboar, are you excited to play them? Do you want to play them? Do you see them and go, Right now for me, Quilboar are kind of subpar. And the reason for that being is, well, they can buff attack really easy. Health is still difficult to buff because you only have the one minion to do it and the Moon Bacon Jazz guy. And well, if we discount the tier 7 option for it, if it's in your particular game. If we look at these things, that makes Quilboar a little hard to pull off. And yes, they have some really big, flashy, fun win conditions with end of turn effects and crazy boards, but overall, they are kind of suffering right now for where they're at because all that generation got taken away in the latest patch. So for me, I like Quilboar. I think they're fun, but I think they're probably the least fun of the tribes to play right now. Yeah, you can go completely nuts, but unless you completely high roll, they're not terribly great. They have moments, but Next up, let's take a look at demons. So what is it that demons do? Demons typically are going to hurt you to gain stats. So either it's a Wrathweaver or other minions that are all getting buffed based on the damage that you do to yourself, the board, everything in general. There's lots of cutting going on. Demons are kind of depressing. And I know they've recently buffed Firebat, but I still haven't really seen anybody using Firebat. They're using the traditional Wrathweaver, buff it all up, go nuts, have a good time. But overall, demons are not super oppressive in the game. They're not insane. I feel like they're kind of perfectly balanced, but I'm never excited to play them. They're just solid. Solid is good. It's fun. It's good to get a win, but they're not exactly stellar. For that, I'm going to give them a B because, yeah, they can win you a game if you get the right cards going and you have a good time, but not super impactful. You're just cycling a couple of cards here and there, turns over. All right, next, let's talk Naga. Naga are kind of a one-trick pony, and they've been this way for a little while. Yes, you have a Slysssa over at tier 6, and you can generate a bunch of buffs to your board if you cycle a bunch of Spellcraft or Blood Gems. But typically, you just kind of get to tier 4, you go, oh, look, a Deep Blue, oh, a Zesty Shaker, and you just kind of grow out that board and you stay at 4 forever. For that, they're not exciting, but they are incredibly solid. I do feel they're a little more impactful and entertaining to play than, say, demons are, but not enough for me to put them at A, because you just need a series of tier 4 cards, and then you just rinse and repeat and tech accordingly. So, well, not exciting. They're pretty simple, and they're kind of blah. They need definitely something else right now. Next up, let's take a look at Beasts. Beasts, once again, they have a couple win conditions, right? You could do Fell Stomper. I mean, Mama Bear can carry you for a little bit, but really it's Banana Slammer. This is the monster that feeds the family. You want this, you want to have Mama Bear, you want to have Sly Raptors, you want to have Reanimating Rattler, and you just kind of run all over the lobby with stupid kickouts. It can get susceptible later in the game. If you don't hit all the banana slammers, if you've only got one or maybe two, you definitely are in trouble against a scaling board. But if you start hitting 2, golden, reborn, the rest of your board, reborn, these things get out of control super fast and are a lot of fun to watch kick out. I don't think it's as much fun for me, at least as leapfrog, as that will always be the highlight of Beast, watching the little frogs hopping around. But this is pretty fun. I do like it. For that, we have to give Beast S right now. They are just in such a good place. Tier 4 is basically all you need. Yes, the 5s, the 6s, the 7s are sexy and can help you win more, but you get the tier 4 banana slammer, you get 2 of them, you get reborn, you're in great shape having fun. Next up, let's take a look at Mechs. Mechs, what do? Well, you get big stats, you put shields on them, you smash people's face on your bubbles until they die. Mechs are a lot of fun. They've just put in Omega Buster back to the game. I don't know if this is going to change mech play. I kind of feel like it's going to stay the same, where we're using Scrap Scraper, where you're using Utility Drone, we're using Drakari Enchanter, and you're just generating a bunch of them. And hopefully, after you've got all these magnetized, you get a beatboxer and you can go off. But typically, all you need is a couple mechs. Start throwing them out there and build it up. I have to give mechs a solid A. I can't put them in S. They're above B to me, but they are definitely a fun, interesting way to play with buffing cards in your hand via shields or whatever method you're using. Mechs are solid and fun to play. Let's go to Elementals next in our lineup. Elementals are interesting in that they can have an element of APM. I am always a sucker for APM, but right now, APM is kind of hard to pull off consistently and effectively. If you're running into a lobby with a ton of tokens, with Venom, then typically your APM is going to have to be really bonkers to work. Do I like playing it? Yes. Is it a trap? Most of the time. And where you're scaling right now is either Nomi or Dancing Barnstormer. Well, Nomi is often a trap, and Dancing Barnstormer, while consistent, is slow. So unless you find some way to double or triple the death rattles, you're probably going to get outscaled, but you can get top 4. Because they're APM, because they're fun, I have to put them at C because I love APM. I want to move them to B. I want to put them all the way up to A, but they're just not effective and they're not going to win games consistently like other tribes. Just as when you do get going, when you get the trumpeters, when you get gold ones and you're cycling cards, it's just satisfying. Let's go with dragons next. Dragons and me have had a complicated relationship over the years because dragons are either the dominant tribe to me or the tribe that you kind of look at and go, oh wow, they have potential if they only didn't have Kalecgos. And why do I pick on Kalecgos? Because Kalecgos is it. It's all they have right now, especially. They took away Prize Promo Drake. They took away Terragosa. And while they were slow and they weren't great, they also were the only other win conditions consistently for dragons. Yeah, you can do some other tricks with buffing, but everything kind of bases around Kalecgos, and Kalecgos is kind of slow. He's not till tier 6. You have to play battle cries. Yes, if you get to tier 6 and you have a brand and you're all set and good to go and you get Kalecgos with a couple dragons on your board, you're great. But if you just find a Kalecgos and you don't have a brand, it's a win condition that you probably are going to die before it gets going. Because of that, I have to put dragons at a C. I would love to move them higher, but they just don't do as much until you get Kalecgos and a brand, or you just get really lucky. I found that dragons right now definitely can win you some games in some big, fun, flashy ways, but more often than not, they're going to let you down and leave you in the bottom 4. Next, let us talk pirates. All right, folks, I love pirates. Pirates are APM at its best. You get a Captain Tethys, or I'm sorry, Admiral Tethys, you cycle like crazy, and you get a bunch of free cards. You get a brand, and you get a bunch of health, and you have, some ways through Peggy or other ways to get other stats up. But ultimately, you will play APM pirates and cycle like a mad person to finish 4th, because you're going to have a Murloc board with a bunch of Venom, or an Undead board with 1,000,000 tokens that all have just as much attack as your guys do. And that doesn't feel good. to do all the work to get an APM board, to cycle 40 cards and then just get blown out by somebody who cycles just a couple cards because they scale so much attack it doesn't matter. I want to make pirates S tier. I want it. They're my most, they're the most fun way to play the game for me. But they're just not very effective right now consistently. You can cycle, and you can end up getting fifth. And that just doesn't feel good. Undead are easy for me. Undead are some of the best to play. They have lots of ways to gain attack. They have lots of ways to refill the board through Reborn and Death Rattles. Undead are kind of bonkers right now. They nerfed them, but it doesn't really seem to matter. For instance, last night I played about 10 games, and in the lobbies where Undead were in, Undead literally won all of the games, and that was more than half the games I played. So I feel pretty confident in saying Undead are very effective. I've won with Undead, other people with Undead. Undead just get a lot of attack. You have the Sore Loser who's still effective. You have your Nubrak who's still sitting there do the thing. Then you have the Primus who's sitting there in the back doing this. At tier 4 and 5, they have 3 different ways to raise their attack. True, Sore Loser doesn't scale infinitely, but the other 2 do. So there's a lot of value in Undead right now, and with that ability to fill the board with minions to get a reoccurring Nightmare at turn 7, that puts Undead way up there with Beasts. You just get a billion tokens and you go nuts. Finally, we're at Murlocs, folks. I love Murlocs. Murlocs are a lot of fun. I've always been one of my best ways to play the game for me, because you put a brand out there, and yes, you kind of need a brand to make them work, and then you just pop off. You just cycle. Primal Fin, go nuts. Young Murkeye, pop that Primal Fin now as it's just sitting at your board. Get a Murky, throw stats out there. Put him on the other side of your now golden Young Murkeye. And every turn, you're just kicking out more and more and more stats. Then you have a Baskill with a Bream counter in your hand, and you're cycling and cycling, and his thing's getting bigger and bigger. And oh wait, now you've got a Coral McGurgler. The thing about Murlocs are you have so many options, and they all scale ridiculously forever. Eventually you're starting to look at your board and go, okay, well, I've got a 40-50. I need to remove him because now I can put a Coral McGurgler down. Yeah, who's tier 6, but when he eats my hand, he's a 400. What a problem to have. You've got too many multiple 100 stat minions in your board, and you don't know which ones to get rid of. You poor baby. Murlocs easily, folks, get S tier. Murlocs will do it very consistently. Yeah, you could argue in certain lobbies they're A, but Murlocs are very consistent and very, very solid, especially when you get those right combo pieces and you start going completely nuts. Folks, this is how I rank the tribes in my experience, in my many games, and I love Battlegrounds. I will sit here and bang my head on the monitor all night long. My chat will attest to it, even when I should long since give up and I'm obviously tired, because I still love the game. Anomalies make it so every game is completely different and are a lot of fun. Even the tier 7 ones, which I see way, way too often. What do you think? What are your favorite tribes? Are any of these complete shocks to you and you would never rank them this way? Where would you put these? Thanks for watching all. Leave a comment below and tell me what you think. I'll see you in the Battlegrounds. Later.